The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Hello, folks. It's Barry Chamish. That first hour was, well, frankly, it was tough on me. But believe it or not, Bill Warner is going to be easy on me. I'm, the problem with Dr. Daisy Stern, we went through too much together and we know too much. Heck. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well, Barry. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I went through your material. Now, this my listeners are going to relate to, I'm sure. Political Islam is your website. We'll get to that shortly. But this is how you open. I am declared by the Southern Poverty Law Center, never heard of them, to be one of America's top 10 haters. You're proud of this?
Well, I figured if you're getting a profile, you need to give the profile that I would give you as well as what the left would give me.
All right. And why do they think you're a hater?
You know, they don't make that clear. They say that I'm an Islamophobe and that Muslims don't like what I say. It's really peculiar. I was 10 people selected for this. And by the way, I knew the other 9, and they're all wonderful people. Basically, we're found guilty of disagreeing with the state.
That's easy enough to do, frankly, for a variety of reasons. But you have a specific... They don't like you... they don't like your view on Islam.
That's exactly correct. There was a local editor. I've had no less than 3 front-page articles done on me on the largest newspaper in Tennessee, and they did it on Sunday morning edition, once above the fold. That's high priority. So I irritated very much the editorial staff at the Tennessean, and this material worked its way into the Southern Poverty Law Center. So anyway, I bring this up because people need to understand that about the worst that's going to happen to you if you oppose political Islam is people will call you bad names.
Oh, the only thing I knew about Tennessee, there was a waltz. That's about it.
Well,
all right.
Still have the waltz.
And my baby got taken away during this waltz. That's all I knew. Look, here is what you're saying, and I want you to expand on this because I truly didn't understand. I have used the scientific method to produce the first readable Korans. Oh, surely in Arabic. There's got to be plenty Korans.
Well, I have produced the first readable Quran, and the reason is I view the Quran as a political document as well as being a religious document. So I approach it from the political side, which is what does it say about me? And most people find the Quran very confusing. Barry, there's a reason why it's confusing. I like to read crime novels. And if I took a crime novel and cut the spine off of it and then resorted all the chapters in terms of length and put the longest chapter up front and the shortest chapter in the back, then rebound the book and handed it to you to read, I said, this is really a great crime novel. You'd hand it back to me a little bit later and say, this doesn't make any sense. There's no story here at all. Well, the original Quran had a story to it.
All right, first of all, what is the scientific method? We're talking about the result now. How does science play a role here?
Well, first off, I use logic instead of belief. All right, to me, this document is just another document. It's words on paper. So one of the things I do when I say I use the scientific method is I rearrange all the chapters in the correct order so that you start with the beginning and get to the end. The other thing I did is I view knowledge from a systemic standpoint. So the Quran can't stand on its own. You have to have Muhammad. So I then took and integrated the Quran with Muhammad's life, and now then, when you read it, it reads like a novel. The opening chapter is a hymn to God, and the final chapter is political domination of the world.
All right, but that's not the Quran. That's, well, it's a very edited and redacted Quran.
Indeed, the cover says a historical reconstruction of Muhammad's Quran, because you see, the Quran you buy today has been heavily redacted. It is put together by Uthman about 20 years after Muhammad died. So the Quran, which you think of as the Holy Quran, has already been heavily rescinded. As a matter of fact, the Quran we have today is a recension. It's not an original document.
Well, it
As a matter of
works.
fact, what?
I mean, you have people taking 5 times a day off to go to pray to this book. It must be a good book.
Have you read it?
No, I must say I've certainly seen selected quotes, but not the whole thing. No.
Well, anyway, I view it as a systemic whole. And the Quran that I produce, and by the way, I don't claim it's a Quran. I claim that if you will read my Quran, you'll then be able to pick up one of the Qurans at the bookstore, read it, and it will make it exact sense. If you want to consider my Quran as a Quran with training wheels, you can drive it on a test course.
Okay. And again, you produced a Quran combining a history book of Muhammad's life, if I'm not mistaken.
The history book is called the Sira, S-I-R-A, which is Arabic for the word biography. And no one can understand the Quran. No one, I'll say that a third time, no one can understand the Quran without understanding Muhammad's life. So what I've done is taken what's in the back of the minds of scholars and put it on the page.
How does it differ from what a billion Muslims read as their holy book?
Well, I'm afraid that most Muslims don't read their holy book because, first off, they can't read classical Arabic or Quranic Arabic. But mine differs in the sense of mine is written for understanding. I do not treat it as a religious text, but as a book to be understood.
And
So,
how does it differ? Same question, by the way. How does it differ from the standard Quran?
well, I include every verse, every word, every syllable. So we're not eliminating anything. Like I say, the Quran that you have in the bookstore was produced by Uthman, the third caliph, about 20 years after Muhammad died. He called together all of the Quranic materials and had Zaid, the secretary, put them together in one work. Now, do you know what Uthman did with all the original source material?
No.
He burned it.
Is that significant? Oh, because he changed it?
He changed it. Of course he did, because you see, the problem is there were different Qurans running around and they didn't agree with each other. So he called them all together, and then when he got through, he produced his recension, to use a technical word, and after he published his recension, he had all the source material destroyed. Now,
Surely there were other copies out there.
I'm telling you, the myth of the Quran is told by those who support it.
How so?
Well, I'm just telling you that the story that I'm giving you, that the Quran was produced decades after Muhammad's death, is agreed on by everyone who studies.
Oh, no problem with that. The problem is he burnt the source material. That was it for the whole wide world?
Yep. Now, let me ask you the question, Barry. Why do you think he burned the source material?
If it was the only source material, obviously, because his version was the final version forever and ever.
Yes.
I just ask myself, there were no other copies?
Well, you have to remember that Uthman was the caliph. He ruled everyone. He was the absolute dictator, as well as, if you will, a pope-like figure. So he was a religious leader and a military leader and a political leader. And when Uthman said do it, people did it. Now, there are some early copies, by the way. This is like a crime story. There are some early copies which have been found in peculiar places, such as in Sana'a, Yemen, stored up in the attic of a mosque. And it doesn't quite agree with the one we have now.
How does it differ?
I'm not really cognizant of what those differences are. I do know that scholars have proclaimed that there are differences, and I also know that in the Arab world, no one wants to discuss it.
All right, now, once again, I'm going to retreat to my original question. Islam is divided amongst several sects. Everyone knows about Sunni Shiite, but there are other sects as well. Where do the differences lie?
Well, first off, let me give you my point of view with regards to Islam. I do not treat Islam as a religion. I don't deny it's a religion. I just don't have anything to do with it along that order. So I view it simply as a political document. And on this basis, the Sunni and the Shia don't differ at all with regards to what to do with the Kafir. That's Kafir.
Yeah, I know. What do they agree should be done to him?
Well, the doctrine of Islam is clear that the Kafir should be fought until the religion of Islam reigns supreme. Not only the religion of Islam, but also the legal system of Islam, the Sharia. So the Sunni agree with that.
Everyone agrees on what the Sharia is.
There are several different schools of Sharia. I believe 4 or 6 Sunni. I don't remember which it is. So, but again, I only view the Sharia with regards to what it says about me, the Kafir. And all the books on the Sharia agree that the Kafir is politically inferior, as well as going to hell, but that happens in the next life. He's politically inferior and is to be ruled as a dhimmi, D-H-I-M-M-I.
Right. That also includes Jews, so you know I'm aware of the term. All right. And that bothers you, why?
Well, I've read what's to be done to the Kafir. I've read what the Quran says about the Kafir. The Kafir is hated, despised. Allah plots against me. Allah despises me. Allah hates me. Matter of fact, there's even a term in the Sharia for sacred hate and sacred love. And that implies that you hate what Allah hates, and Allah hates the Kafir.
All right, but if you find a nice Muslim girl and you convert, you're no longer a kafir or a dhimmi. You're now. So it's as simple as that.
I love the way you use simplicity when you're referring to throwing away my civilization.
All right. That clearly somehow insulted you. Why?
Oh, it doesn't insult me. I'm just saying that that's the reason I oppose political Islam, is that it's not just a religious choice. And by the way, I don't discuss Muslims. I only discuss the doctrine of Islam, Quran, Sirah, Hadith, Sharia.
Okay. I'm learning.
So I discuss words on paper. I discuss ideas. I don't discuss people. Therefore, it's sort of odd when people say, oh, he's a Muslim basher. I challenge anyone to look at all my work and find a single Muslim I've ever even spoken ill of. I don't even speak ill of Muhammad.
Well, according to what you're saying, you don't speak ill of Muhammad Ali either. I mean, anyone who is a Muslim is not part of your thesis. Your thesis is of the political Islam by itself, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so what's the problem with it?
Well, the problem I have with political Islam is it's politically dualistic. We have a constitution which says all of those are to be equal in the law in front of the law. Okay? Islam proudly proclaims that there is no equality in the law, that there are separate classes, and they will be dealt with separately. For instance, the Kafir cannot testify against the Muslim in a trial. I object to that.
So and vice versa, right? A Muslim can't give testimony against a dhimmi.
Oh, a Muslim can testify against a dhimmi. A dhimmi cannot testify against...
All right, we're sorting it out. It's unfair, you're saying.
Well, that's the way I take it. Also, the kafir can be killed for purposes other than he opposes Islam. I don't like that.
Okay, I'm following. Is Now look, as a Jew, I got to tell you, when really, really lousy stuff was happening to Jews in Spain, then later Portugal, whatever, the air, okay, the Muslim, whoever, they gave them dhimmi status in places like Morocco, where it wasn't equal, but it was a lot better than it was in Spain.
Well, you're dealing with a history here, and what I'm dealing with is the doctrine of Islam. But I will say to you this. I've read about the history of the Dhimmi Jew in northern Africa, and you're portraying it a little bit smoother than my reading implies.
What does your reading imply?
Well, I know of cases in which Jews blasphemed against Muhammad and they were killed on the spot. I know where Jews had to empty the sewers, and they were only to do dirty work. So I find that the treatment of, and by the way, there's another thing about the treatment of Jews in the Middle East which is usually overlooked. In modern times, the treatment of Jews in the Middle East was greatly influenced by the colonialists who insisted that the Jews not be so brutally demonized. But what I prefer to deal with is exactly how the Jew is treated within the Sirah, the Quran, and the Hadith.
How's that?
Well, using my scientific method, I went through and counted all the paragraphs in Mein Kampf that were Jew hatred. They comprised 7% of the text. I then went through Quran, Sirah, Hadith, and pulled out all of the Jew hatred material, and it's 9.3% of the text. So according to my scientific methods, the doctrine of Islam, Quran, Sirah, Hadith, contains more Jew hatred than Mein Kampf. That's the scientific method.
All right, I think we can agree that neither book has been all that good to Jews. But again, you're talking about a political system. It's not a religion. You don't believe in it because it's a system. You got to sort that out. Really, that's the core of your research. Is forget this Islam. It's a political system like the Democrats or Republicans.
Not good as a political system.
Yes.
No, and I don't like the way I'm treated in it.
All right. Once again, why are you threatened by it?
Well, hatred, murder. Do you know how many kafirs have died in 1,400 years?
No.
Under jihad?
No.
270 million. Now, oddly enough, very few Jews, but about 60 million Christians, 80 million Hindus, 10 million Buddhists, and 120 million Africans. I object to that.
All right. I can relate to that. I'm not exactly sure. Look, very, very short. You know what? Let's do it now. Tell people how to read you. And I'll get sorted out. I always do, by the way. Tell people where your website is and how to get to your material.
Well, my website is politicalislam.com. And I also have a Facebook page, Bill Warner Author. I have also a YouTube channel, Political Islam. So I'm very forthcoming with my views. You must admit I'm not a shy man.
Oh, no, you're not a shy man. You got my admission on that one. Look, folks, we are archived for 1 week. And you tell your people that we're at libertyarchives.com for a week. Now, look, I'm going to get my plug out of the way, and then we're going to dive into this. I think you're holding back on me. That's what I think. But we're going to get to this in 1 second. Look, folks, all my books are at lulu.com. That's www.lulu.com. There's a search box. Just write in my last name, Chamish, Chamish, and you'll get to my books, and David Salmon is keeping my website going. It's barrychamish.com. All right, now your primary argument, you view Islam as having dualistic ethics.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yep.
I can see that many ways. It sounds backstabbing.
I'm not sure what you mean by backstabbing. All I
Well,
know
what
is,
is dualistic? What does that mean? Two-faced.
all right, let's take an example, the Quran.
Okay.
There are 12 verses in the Quran which say that no Muslim is ever actually the true friend of a kafir. They can be friendly to them when it is needed, but they're not really a friend. Now, Barry, do you know the difference between being friendly and a friend?
Well, one runs the grocery store, and the other is you're working at the grocery store. Obviously, it's public people are not your friends. But you're friendly to them. Yeah, I think I know. Uh, Again,
So I
personally,
find that this is a dualistic ethics. The other thing is that Islam does not contain the golden rule. The trouble with the golden rule is do unto others. Well, which others, Barry? All others. That's the meaning of the golden rule. And Islam says no, a Muslim is a brother to another Muslim.
well, you
That's
know,
dualistic ethics.
for a masochist, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you isn't so hot.
Well, let's go back then, since you don't like the golden rule. Let's
No,
go.
I just say if applied, and you happen to be a masochist, you want everyone to, you know, you want everyone to be like you. So everyone's got to be masochistic. It's interpretable.
What's interpretable about the fact that someone is forbidden by their own rules to be your friend?
See, there's where you lost me. Um, Again, we go back to the storekeeper. I like him, a good guy, but we don't have anything in common except he's selling me my, my magazines and my beer. Other than that, he's my storekeeper.
Exactly.
So when does he become my friend?
Well, I don't know. When you get to know him, and if his ethics don't include any hidden information, that is, smiling. There's a hadith. Do you know what the hadith are? The traditions of Muhammad?
You know what? I want you to dive into that. It's a term I've seen all for many, many years. What is it?
Oh yeah, hadith. And let me give you the hadith. We may smile at your face, but hate you in our heart. That's what I call dualistic ethics. Anyway, a hadith. There are 3 sacred texts in Islam. Quran, which everyone's heard of. Do you know anybody who's actually read it?
No.
Okay, well, I've read it.
My
not know how many times.
storekeeper, I assume, has.
But anyway, so Quran. But you see, the Quran is a peculiar book. Not only is it difficult to read, it does not contain any of the information necessary to complete the 5 pillars of Islam. 5 pillars are the declaration of the Shahada, there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his prophet, to do the Hajj, to contribute the charity tax, to fast during Ramadan, and to pray 5 times a day. None of that information can be found in the Quran. But there are 91 verses which in the Quran say that every Muslim is to imitate the perfect model of sacred behavior, Muhammad. And where do we find this sacred Muhammad? We find him in the Sirah, his biography, and the Hadith, his traditions. There are collectors of traditions, of which the best known is Bukhari, and he has nearly 7,000 little Muhammad says and does stories. And here you get to learn how to knock on a door, say hello, have sex with your wife, what food to eat, what not to eat, how to pray, exactly how to pray. So the Hadith give you all the details that you need to be a Muslim and practice the 5 pillars. So the Hadith are far more important to Islam than the Quran when it comes to the actual practice of Islam.
All right. Now, they're not in the Quran then?
No.
Okay. So
You see,
there's 90 odd ways to behave.
91 verses which say that Muhammad is the perfect model of behavior.
Is there a problem with the model?
Well, the man Muhammad preached the religion of Islam.
Bill, now we're getting very interesting, I want you to know. That's our topic when we come back in 3 minutes, the Hadith. I want to know how to be a perfect Muhammad. maybe there's some good in there. Amy, good and bad, tell us about the Hadith in 3 minutes time. This is Barry Chamish with our guest, Bill Warner.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Hey, folks, a very, very interesting show. Well, I want Bill Warner to explain the 91 stories. Are they proverbs about Muhammad? Bill, did you miss that question?
The music was playing so loud I didn't know if I was supposed to speak or not.
Oh,
There we
heck.
go.
What are the 91? Again, I asked the same question. Are they proverbs?
There are 91 verses which say that every Muslim that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah, and that every Muslim is to obey him in word and deed. So where do you find Muhammad's words and deeds? You find them in his biography, the Sirah, and in the traditions, the Hadith.
All right. Well, first of all, what was the average Arab who apparently is willing to, well, die for Islam? Forget kill. I mean, he's willing to commit suicide. What are in these 92 verses?
Well, the 91 verses say that Muhammad is the perfect rule, the perfect measure, perfect man. So there are, by the way, Bible verses which say, and these are agreed on in the Hadith, that the man who dies, or woman, in the process of exercising jihad, which is to struggle against the kafir in order to make Allah's religion supreme, that he who does that will bypass the punishment of the grave, bypass Judgment Day, and go directly to paradise.
And that works?
I can't tell you if it works or not. I know it motivates people to kill themselves.
That's working. All right. Are there any other verses? Are there any good verses?
Oh, let me give you the life of Muhammad, so we'll have a reference for the good verses. Yes, there are. As a matter of fact, there is some beautiful writing in the Quran, but you need to understand this: its most dedicated to perfection language is reserved for the description of hell. Hell is not a verse in the Quran. It goes on and on and on with elaborate tortures and everything. So, but here's how Muhammad's career is, so you can understand the Quran. You do know there are two different Qurans, an early one and a late one? Mecca and Medina?
No, I don't.
Well, there are two different Qurans, and this is not some whack job conspiracy theory. Every Quran you pick up, if it's one of those big ones that has any comments in it, will tell you there's 114 chapters, some of them written in Mecca, some of them written in Medina. These two Qurans are radically different. The early Quran can be quite beautiful, and its descriptions of hell are slightly disturbing. I'm told in Arabic they read even better. But the latter ones, let me just give you the story of Muhammad so you'll know why there's two Qurans.
Sure.
Muhammad preached the religion of Islam for 13 years in Mecca and converted 150 Arabs to Islam. They drove him out of Mecca because he was a divisive man who created arguments. And so he went to Medina, about 200 miles away, whereupon he became a politician and a jihadist. He averaged an event of jihad of once a month for the last 9 years of his life. And when he died, every Arab in the Hijaz, the classical Arabian Peninsula, was a Muslim. So what have I told you?
What is a jihad? Look, I know the term as killing for the sake of Islam is jihad. What are you?
Well, there's much more to it than that.
Tell us.
There are four kinds of jihad, according to the Quran. There's jihad of the sword, jihad of the pen, jihad of speech, and jihad of money. So there are four kinds of jihad. And the man who gives money to the jihadist in order that he may practice jihad receives an equal reward. So you can have jihad that's writing a letter to the editor. You can have jihad which is obscuring the truth of Islam to confuse the kafir. You can have jihad. I sat in a mosque in Southern California and watched as $18,000 was raised out of a group of about 50 people for the purpose of lawfare, suing people like me and trying to run down my resources and then dropping the case when it comes to court. So that is a form of jihad.
That's happened to you? What? That's actually happened to you?
I've not been sued, but the event I told you about, I was there and saw the money being raised.
Okay, you escaped. All right, fair enough. Excuse me. It's cold in Florida, by the way, tonight. Yeah, it's actually going into freezing. But away we go. Now we've got two kinds of Qurans. Which one do you like better?
Well, the early Quran, and I'll tell you the reason why. Here's my scientific method. The early Quran does not contain any verses of jihad. The latter jihad, the one written in Medina, 24% of it is devoted to jihad. There's another difference which you might find interesting. In the early Quran written in Mecca, the Jews are treated as a favorable people. Why? Because the way Muhammad sold his business as being a prophet was this. He said the archangel Gabriel, who spoke with Moses, David, Solomon, and Adam, and all the other prophets, is the same angel who's talking to me. Hence, I am the final prophet in the lineage of the Jewish prophets. So therefore, all the stories in the Torah are reworked. You might be interested to know that the reason that Moses appeared in front of the Pharaoh was not to let my people go. No.
No?
He was there to convince the Pharaoh that he, Moses, was the prophet of Allah.
If I'm not mistaken, Abraham had two children. One became the god of Israel. Well, a god of Israel.
What?
And wait a second. There were two children. One became descended all the way to Islam 3,000 years later.
All right, you're referring to Esau, not Esau, Jacob.
Yes.
Ishmael.
Ishmael.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Boy, that got me out of fix. Yes.
However, let me point something out to you with regards to this Ishmael theory of the origin of the Arab. We know that, now by the way, the Muslims claim that Ishmael went all the way down to Mecca to build the Kaaba. But let's set that aside for a moment. We know that Ishmael attended his father's funeral, which was held within 48 hours after his death. So I don't think he moved from Mecca to Ur in that period of time. But we have an interesting biography, a travel study by Richard Burton, written in about 1880. He went to Mecca. He was a world traveler, and not the same as the Richard Burton who married.
I know, he wasn't married to Elizabeth Taylor.
Right.
That one we got out of the way.
But anyway, he reports that in Iran and around Mecca, there were three distinct races of Arabs. You see, Arab is a language group, like Semitic is a language group. And so we have three different racial groups. My question for you is, if you buy into the Ishmael theory of the origin of the Arab, which of those three racial groups was Ishmael's descendants?
All right. Do you have an answer?
No, I don't, because I don't pay any attention to the theory. I'm just reporting it.
All right.
And I find it to be problematic. First off, the Arabs took so much bloodline into the slave business that their own DNA is pretty mixed up. As a matter of fact, there was one event in Medina where Muhammad killed 800 Jews in one day's time, and the children of the Jews were adopted in his family, and the women of the Jews were sold as sex slaves. Now, it turns out they had a peculiar genetic deficiency, which is found today only amongst the Jews and some of the Arabs in Saudi Arabia.
I don't think there are Jews in Saudi Arabia.
The descendants of Jews.
Okay.
Sex slaves have children, you know.
All right. And what is this genetic defect?
I do not remember the name. It's one of those with a hyphen in it. If I've learned anything in medicine, Barry...
Pretty well narrows it down. All right. I've sort of... Let's get back to where you're more comfortable. All right? We're getting lost a bit. Look, you're writing self-study courses on political Islam. Now, what is that?
Well, what I find is that you cannot go to any school here in Tennessee that's a public school and learn anything about the Quran, the Sirah, and the Hadith. It's also not taught in religious schools. So I decided to myself, why should this knowledge be so secret? I want to make it easy and available to all. I hold a doctorate in quantum physics, but my purpose as being a teacher was never to impress the students with how smart I was, which is a question anyway, but how easily I could make complex subjects easy to understand. And so that's what
I think you're pretty smart, first of all. Don't denigrate yourself. Now, you put together books. What you're saying is anyone can follow them.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, to prove my point, I took my biography of Muhammad and paid a 14-year-old teenager who was an excellent reader $20 to read it. Child labor is cheap, you know. And when I got through with it, I could ask her questions about it, and she could answer them. So I write for the level of a popular magazine.
You know what? One more time, tell people how to get your self-study courses. I'll bet they missed it the first time.
PoliticalIslam.com. PoliticalIslam.com. www.politicalislam.com.
All right, folks, you heard it. Let's go on once again. What is the course? How long is it?
Well, it's 3 small books, and what we do is we take 13 subjects and introduce them to you one level at a time. Most people have considered that the subject of Islam is so impossible to read and understand that you don't want to scare them off. You want to start off smooth and easy and simple. So we give you 13 subjects to study: women, jihad, Jews, Christians, I forget the other categories, and you take them at 3 different levels. So
All right, level 1 on women, what do you learn?
Well, all 3 books contain the articles on women, but in successive complexity. Well, one of the things you learn is that a woman in Islam is inferior to men. Muhammad said, this is a hadith, by the way, I have seen hell, and it is mostly filled with women. Why, Muhammad? Because they were not grateful to their husbands. I also tell you that women are deficient in their intelligence and their religion. Why is that, Muhammad? Well, it takes 2 women to equal the testimony of 1 man, and a woman may not practice her religion during her menstruation. So that is a hadith about women. Their religion is inferior, their brains are inferior, and basically they're childbearing machines.
That's book 1. I'd hate to see where this leads, my goodness.
Well, you can see where it leads very nicely. You ever keep up with the Islamic State?
Yes, I'm doing my best.
Well, they are a pure practitioner of the female doctrine of Islam.
Okay. We're not getting to the final point. What is it?
The purpose of a woman
you're back to this. Nothing to do with covering themselves, covering their faces. It doesn't lead to that, huh?
Well, it does lead to that. It leads to many things. But do you want me to continue to discuss women? I'm slightly...
Yes. You know what? Yes, you're happier that way. Go to it.
Well, I mean, I'm happy discussing anything you want. I'm slightly confused is the issue.
No. You're doing great. I'm the one who's confused. I apologize. I'm trying to sort out too much. All right, back to where you were. What makes you the happiest to discuss, and I'll shut up?
Well, I can discuss anything about Islam. I'm a teacher, and so anytime I'm educating, I'm happy. So if we're educating you, I'm happy, or if we're educating the listeners, I'm happy. So I can discuss any aspect of Islam you want to.
Well, I'm wondering, I started with women. Obviously, they don't play. Is there anything nice said about women?
They will be judged on their merits on Judgment Day. And, by the way, I've gone through a statistical analysis and broken down all the verses that refer to women in the Sirah, the Hadith, and the Quran and measured them all out. And it's due to the dualistic nature of Islam that there's always some good things to say and there's always some bad things to say.
All right.
It is the nature of Islam to have 2 factual declarations on all subjects, and they will contradict each other. So some of the verses say that women are equal on Judgment Day, where they will be judged according to their works. But there's some small print, and you look in the footnote, the small print says one of the things they will be judged on is how well they pleased their husband, because that's part of their duty under the law. Then there are other verses which say that the mother is praised above all human beings. So therefore, the woman is elevated in stature. She's equal in stature, but there are far, far more verses in Hadith which say she is inferior. So the answer to the question, are women equal in Islam? Yes. Are women superior in Islam? Yes. Are women inferior in Islam? Yes. That's the great thing about Islam. The answer is always yes.
You're making it sound great. I'm not... Was that a criticism?
I try not to be so critical. I try to present information and you draw your own conclusions. If the bulk of the verses say you're inferior, but you have a handful which say you're better, you pick and choose. But I just offer the choices. I don't offer to make any choice for you.
Well, let's do Jews then. How are we inferior, and are we actually superior in some way?
Originally, in the early Quran, the Jews were a superior people. They were blessed by Allah. However, You see, the story takes a change. You see, when you integrate Muhammad's life into the Quran, you suddenly see that every verse in the Quran was a response to his need on the ground. So he used the Jews he was the caboose on the Jewish prophet train. He was the last one, the last prophet. But what happened in his 13th year of being in Mecca, the Meccans who knew, there were no Jews in Mecca. So the Meccans sent some people to Medina, which was half Jewish, and they said, this guy claims to be a Jewish prophet. Give us some questions. We don't know from Jews. So the rabbis gave them some questions. They came back and asked the difficult questions to Muhammad, and suddenly the Quran begins to turn on the Jews. They're perfidious. They're unfaithful.
Where was the perfidy? You got me lost here. I missed the perfidy part.
Well, you see, they were now contradicting the prophet of Allah, Muhammad.
Okay.
That's the problem. You see, no one contradicted Muhammad, because when he went to Medina and the town was half Jewish, 2 years later it was Judenrein. Do you know the term?
I'm aware of the term, yes.
Okay. So Medina was Judenrein 2 years after he got there, and the reason was this. He approached the Jews and said, you know that your Torah is corrupt and wrong. You know that you Jews changed it because you denied in your Torah the prophecy of mine coming, Muhammad. And they said, you're ridiculous. Well, no one disagreed with Muhammad and survived. So therefore, the 3 Jewish tribes were taken down one at a time. The first one, he took all their goods and exiled them. The second one, he took all their goods and exiled them. And the third one, he killed them down to the last man. After that, the only 2 Jews, there were 3 Jews then left in Medina. One was his wife, whom he took from the best looking of the last tribe he killed. And the other 2 were Jews who converted to Islam.
Is there a moral in this? Needless to say, get out of there. It's not a place that wants you. Get on the next train out. That's the only moral I can get out of this verse.
Well, the moral is you need to agree with Muhammad.
Or that.
And by the way,
yes.
Go ahead.
No, all you.
Well, I'm going to give you how, from my standpoint, a totally different view on Israel. You want to discuss Israel for 2 minutes?
Oh, go to it.
Okay. The problem with Israel is not that it was created in 1947 or 48, and I never can remember which it was.
48, actually, but it doesn't matter.
Okay. I think a resolution was passed in 47. But anyway.
Undoubtedly.
Anyway, the trouble with the Jews and the Arabs and the Muslims is not the creation of Israel. It is the fact that Israel is a Kafir nation within the Middle East. If we removed every Jew from Israel and replaced them in the morning with a Hindu, none of the problems would change. Because the problem is that part of the world is free of Islam to some degree. How do you think that the Middle East went from being Christian to Muslim? How do you think North Africa went from Christian to Muslim? How do you think Egypt went from Christian to Muslim? How do you think that Turkey went from Christian to Muslim? How do you think that Afghanistan went from Buddhist to Muslim? How do you think that Pakistan went from Hindu to Muslim?
I would assume there was pressure to convert.
Ah, clever man.
Yeah.
I can see why you were in the big bucks.
Yeah, I sure do. I'm rolling in it. Look, let's go to the more recent Bethlehem, which I used to go for the ceremony out Christmas Eve, go to the church to see the ceremony. There were 80,000 Christians there. It was majority Christian in the 80s. And now, all but 8,000, they say, remain. They're gone. And the reason is, a lot of the reason was the rape of their daughters. That's what forced them out. I've read that. You're aware of this or not?
I'm very aware of this. I know one of the nice things about who I am and what I do is I get to hear some very interesting personal details of people's lives. I'm an ear that can hear, and I get told stories because I listen to them and I don't tell secrets.
All right, so let's get to it. What did you hear?
What I hear is that rape is endemic. What I hear from Coptic Christian women is that if you're on the bus in Egypt, you will be groped, insulted, and basically a lot of lewd remarks. and that's just with being a woman.
Yeah, that's minor. Uh, all right.
Well, the woman who described it to me said after a lifetime of it, it isn't very minor.
Okay. All I can say about Bethlehem used to be a majority Christian town. Since the PLO took over, it's not anymore. they're,
Did
they're
you know that
down.
Lebanon was a Christian nation after the Second World War?
Yeah.
You know what they did? They took in the Palestinian refugees. Big hearts, small minds.
It's, I'm not going to dive into this. This Lebanon is, in theory, still a Christian country in theory, but I'm not going to dive into that. It's a mess there, and the mess is getting worse. I mean, do Muslims overall assimilate into new societies?
Well, let's establish what is a Muslim. A Muslim is one who submits to Islam.
All right, does someone who's submitting to Islam assimilate into new European societies?
Well, I don't see how, because women in Germany are considered to be equal to men, whereas women in Islam, remember, there's two verses say they're equal, but the rest of them say they're to be subjugated by the man. So I don't think that's equal. I think that we in our civilization would like to see equal classes in front of the law. Islam strictly says that that is not possible. So the Sharia is to be the supreme law of all the world, and once you've read the Sharia, you say, I don't want to live under that. So no, there is not one principle in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that is agreed upon by Muslims. For instance, if you're a Baptist and you leave the Baptist church, you do not expect to be ostracized by your family and possibly live a life in danger. But the apostate from Islam can be killed. That's called lack of freedom of conscience. It's also not possible under Sharia law to criticize Islam, or in particular Muhammad. You do know, of course, that in 1400 years of Islam, there's never been a Muhammad joke.
Not a good rib jabber? Not a good rib jabber?
Yeah.
Muhammad, a priest and a rabbi, walked into none of that?
No. There's no jokes that start off, Muhammad and Aisha walked into a bar. Nope. But you and I have both heard jokes that involve priests, rabbis. We've all heard jokes about Jesus, jokes about Moses, jokes about Noah. But there are no jokes about Muhammad.
A Muhammad joke would be a knee slapper.
Be more like a head crusher.
Oh, really? Oh. No, I was not aware of that.
So I ask you this. If you can't make fun of it, look, I grew up in the South.
Well, how many Jesus jokes are there?
Oh, I don't know. How many have you heard? I mean, Jesus and Jack Nicklaus are playing God in golf.
Actually, you know what? I actually have heard. All right, fair enough. You outdid me. You found one.
So what am I doing next?
Oh, my goodness. Good, you threw me off topic. Look, in short, my question was, do they assimilate? If not, why is for now, all of Europe, over 1 million refugees are disrupting their societies? Why are they being taken in?
The mind of a fool is hard to discern.
That's your answer?
That's my answer. I'm speaking about Angela Merkel.
I don't think
EU.
It's foolish. I don't think it's as foolish. I think it's precipitated. That's where I think somebody is exploiting Islamic hate. That's what I think. But I'm not going to dive into that. You want to disrupt a society? Good solution.
Well, I'm not sure why. I have personal contacts in Central Europe, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, and Hungary, and other such places as that.
Oh, Bill, I hate to do this. We had a good time. It turned out to be a real good show. Now, I'm going to email you, but we are archived at libertyarchives, all one word, .com for a week. I think you'll enjoy the results. I certainly did. The whole
Thank you.
show was good. Folks, this was Bill Warner. Our previous guest was Dr. Daisy Stern. This is Barry Chamish with a new system. You can hear me. I'll see you next week. Night all.
If you'd like to get a copy of this program, you may subscribe at FirstAmendmentRadio.com for only $45 a month, and you'll receive an MP3 CD weekly of all of our programs. As a bonus, we'll send you a password for our audio archives online. That's a $15 value. Or you may request any month of any program on one MP3 CD for a minimum donation of only $25, or any single program on tape, MP3 CD, or CD for only $15. You may do all of this online at FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Just follow the instructions to make a donation or subscribe. You may also adopt an hour of your favorite program. Please don't forget that most of the programs on FirstAmendmentRadio.com are listener-supported. Don't do internet? Then call 559-781-3773 and we'll be honored to help you. Thank you from all of us here at FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
This is American Family News. I'm Steve Jordahl. Guess who's coming to the State of the Union speech tonight? Kim Davis, the Kentucky clerk who defied the court and refused to issue same-sex marriage licenses, will be in the gallery, although no one's quite sure which lawmaker invited her. Family Research Council's Tony Perkins says Davis is a hero to pro-life Americans.
Kim stood up courageously against the power of the state and the ACLU, and she, along with religious liberty in Kentucky, prevailed.
Lawmakers can invite guests to the event. They usually choose someone who represents a value or accomplishment the legislator cherishes. The president's guest list includes Spencer Stone, the Air Force sergeant who helped thwart a terrorist attack on a Paris train, Jim Obergefell, the gay man whose lawsuit ushered in nationwide same-sex marriage, and an empty chair in honor of victims of gun violence. Iran has seized the crew of two U.S.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more. about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left-behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.